what it is. Welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to talk about what we're doing here with Bronco Cheapskate. Some of you guys have been following along, and I hadn't really had a chance to get back on it here lately because I've just been busy. So anyway, managed to get some stuff done today to it. So I wanted to go over a few things that I did and where I'm at with it. For video purposes, I went ahead and already cleaned some of these parts up because there's no sense in me sitting there and going over what I did cleaning parts. It's a little boring. So last I left off, we did a demonstration on how we took the rotor off the truck, how to get the bearings out, how to get your retainer and all that out of there. When we left off with the spindle was still on the truck, and I talked about we're going to get rid of the backing plate. So that's what I did today. So this is our backing plate. So your backing plate goes on before your spindle goes on. Then your spindle goes on, and it gets sandwiched between the knuckle. So we're not going to run the backing plate. We're going to throw that away. It's garbage. It's rotted out. Now, some guys, I'm sure there's going to be some guys in the comments, and oh, you got to put it on there. But I don't know. Ford had it on there for a reason. You're right. Ford did have it on there for a reason. But our reason for what we're doing with this truck is totally different than what Ford intended. We're going to wheel this truck. We're going to drive this truck. It's going to see the beach. It's going to see the woods. It's going to see gravel roads, all that crap. The problem I found over the last 30 years of doing this, working on this junk and owning it, is you get tree branches, stones, and junk wedged up in between the rotor and the backing plate. It makes a hell of a noise. And sometimes it's a pain in the ass to get it out of there. So just get rid of it. Now, when we got our spindle off, we also noticed that our inner our U-joint was seized up. So again, for the purpose of the video, I'm sure that most guys that are following this video know how to change a U-joint. I don't think I need to do a demonstration on how to change a U-joint. But we went ahead and put a new U-joint in. Our other one was seized up. Now I can tell you something. Here's something that you might want to take this for some information for yourself. This applies to pretty much everything four-wheel drive, Jeep, Bronco, Chevrolet, anything that uses this style of front shaft in your front rear. Now, I'm not talking about something that has a CV joint like your late model front wheel drive stuff does. Or like, for example, independent front suspension Toyota pickup. They use CV shafts. I'm talking about stuff that still uses an axle shaft with a U-joint. I purchased a 96 F-150 a couple weeks ago. The U-joints in the front are so seized up that you can't turn the steering wheel left and right. The guy I bought the truck from, he put a steering box. He put inner and outer tie rods, drag length, power steering pump. He thinks all that stuff was bad. And I said to him, I know what's wrong with this truck. He said, oh, I've replaced everything. There's something wrong with it. I said, yeah, it's got bad U-joints in the front end. The U-joints are so seized up that they won't turn. And I've had that happen before. And usually how it starts out is you're driving the vehicle, you make a right-hand turn or left, it doesn't matter. And when you let go of the wheel, how the wheel just kind of naturally comes back. Well, when these things start to seize up, when you make a right or left turn, you let go of the wheel, it doesn't come back. It just kind of stays that way. That's the beginning stages of those things starting to seize up and going bad. Again, they're not serviceable. So there is a part number for a Spicer U-joint that does have a grease fitting, but they're next to impossible to find. These are just good replacement U-joints we put in, which is fine. So, back to our spindle. Our spindle has what's called an inner bearing inside here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a bearing. You might be able to see it right there. That bearing is not serviceable unless the spindle is removed. So, when this thing's together, there's your spindle. Your axle goes in there just like so, and it rides in there. You see that clean spot right here? That's where that bearing rides in there. This is not serviceable unless the spindle's removed. And again, this plays into like Dana 60, Dana 44, the 10-bolt Chevrolets. It's all, even the Dodge stuff that all have that style. They all have that. But right now we're just concentrating on the twin I-beam Dana 44 and this Ford Bronco. That bearing is not serviceable. You got a seal right here, right where my fingernail is, there's a seal. Then there's another seal that goes on the end of that axle shaft that kind of helps keep the garbage out. That seal and the other seal kind of helps keep the garbage from going out and going this this way to get around here. For, you know, if this thing's submerged underwater a lot and you're seeing a lot of underwater activity, you're going to get it in there. Water's going to get its way in, but it keeps most of it out. Now, another thing I want to talk about is getting these spindles off. These spindles can be a real biatch to get off. They get seized up right here. Now, this one's been apart, I'm going to guess, because it has greasable ball joints in it. So somebody at some points had it apart. This truck sat for about 8 years. The guy I bought it from said it sat for 8 years. So it didn't fight me to come apart too bad. OTC and Snap-on does make a tool that spins on the threads, and you put it on your big slide hammer and you can slide hammer it off. It'll work on ones that aren't rusty. This thing is a little crusty. Although it didn't have to beat on too bad, it came off. Now, how I get them off when they're really crusty, I did not use my socket, the tool that fit on there this time. It looks like a socket, but it's threaded on the inside, and it threads right onto here. Since this thing was pretty crusty, I didn't even waste my time getting that out because I didn't think it was going to work. So what I do is, you look real close, right here, and right here. That's where your bearings ride. This space in the middle here is just kind of a dead man space. Nothing's there. You're not going to hurt anything. What I do is I have an old mason hammer. It's all steel. It's flat. I lay it right on here, like right where my finger is. I lay it on there, and I whack it with another hammer right there. Usually 2 or 3 whacks, and it'll crack it loose. And you'll start to see a gap right here where the spindle meets. Now, the backing plate gets sandwiched between here, so I sometimes just grab the backing plate. And if it starts to wiggle, then I know it's breaking loose. What I'll do is I'll wedge a chisel down in there, and then I'll smack it from the bottom side. And usually, a couple whacks, it's right off. Some guys may say, oh, that's crazy, whatever. That works really well on the ones that are super rusted up. So, in closing, for this chapter of Bronco Cheapskate, we're going to pack all the inside here really good. We're going to overflow it with grease. We're actually going to go crazy with grease. The more grease, the less water space. I'm going to pack it with a good high-grade marine grease. You know, you can get anywhere, marine, Napa, get it, you know, anywhere. But I'll pack it with a marine grease because marine grease is, so they say, is better in water. I've been using it for years. I flood these things with grease. And when I pack the wheel bearings on the rotor, which we have right there, we've already cut our rotor. I'm fortunate enough that most guys don't, but I'm fortunate enough that I own a brake lathe, so that makes our life a little easier here at the shop. Sorry for bouncing you around. So when I pack the wheel bearings, I flood them with grease. I overpack them. Now, I know there's going to be guys that comment, oh, you're not supposed to do it, just use a little bit. Stick with me here. Pack that thing full so you can't get any more grease in there. When you put her back on there, she's going to come out the front. Shove your wheel bearing in there. Again, it's going to be flooded. Then take your finger and wipe the excess out and throw it back in the tub. The reason for that, again, this applies to because this is an off-road truck. If you pack that thing and flood that thing full of grease, it's less space for water to hang out. Less space for that garbage to hang out. Now, I've been doing that for years on the stuff that I wheel, because I wheel over New Jersey. We wheel pine bearings and stuff like that, and everything over there, that mud is a real sandy-based mud. I mean, it's just really sandy. So I could wheel it for a summer, and by the end of the summer, I have to blow all this back apart anyway, because the sand and the water just eventually works its way in there. But over the years of doing just what I said, flooding that with grease, I have been able to take this stuff apart, wash the bearings out, wash the hubs out. Everything's still good. Now, I have in the past, we tried not using that much grease, and we found after a summer of wheeling it that the bearings and the races were just all junk. Everything was full of water. Everything was full of that wet, sandy shit. So we tried to come up with an idea that would let this stuff live a little longer. We found that just pack that thing full. Just pack it full. That it lived longer in the condition we're wheeling. Now, if you're wheeling in just straight mud and not a lot of water, maybe you don't want to pack it as much. But for our purposes, where we're wheeling it and where we're planning on wheeling it, our mud that we deal with here on the East Coast is real sandy. It's got a lot of sand. In fact, R460 big truck with the 44s, it's got drum brakes on the back, and within a summer of wheeling trips, the back brakes are metal to metal. Because that mud and sand just lays in there and it eats the brake shoes. They're gone. By the end of the summer, they're gone. The truck has no rear brakes. So we found in the past that filling these really helps them. So hopefully you got a little something out of that video. We're going to keep moving on this thing. And it's just been so busy in the shop with other stuff, I haven't had as much time to work on it as I wanted to. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more done on it. I'd like to get a wheeling trip or two out of it before the end of summer. I'm sweating like 10 mofos. So I'm done. I'm up. I'm out. Smash that like, subscribe button. Tell me to go to hell. Something. Holler at your boy later. See ya.